This is the Pam Souter Podcast. With over 2 decades of field and corporate experience and voted one of the most influential women in direct selling, Pam helps mesh the daily needs of distributors to everyday life challenges. It's time to get over yourself, fire up your productivity, work less, and live more. Learn the self-limiting hashtag F-bombs holding you back, fear, frustration, and failures, and turn those F-bombs into friendships, fun, and freedom. Ready? Let's get this party started.
I am so excited about today's podcast. We are so fortunate to have someone with us that I've gotten to know very well over the last 8 years. She is extremely prominent in her community and in our business of network marketing. I want to introduce you to Ashley Sinclair. Ashley, welcome.
Hi, Pam. How are you?
I am so great, and I'm so honored to have you on our podcast. And I would love for you to introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and how long you've been in the industry of network marketing.
Sure. So, hi, I am Ashley Sinclair, and I have been in the industry I'm coming up on 8 years, and I am from Lubbock, Texas.
All right, that's a small town. I've been there several times. Can you build a business in a small town?
Absolutely. Well, you can build a business anywhere that you've got people, anywhere that and especially now with social media, don't you think? I mean, I grew up in a town of 500, so you can build a business anywhere.
And all right, so Ashley, before we really dig into the business side, give us a little personal information on you. Tell us about your family.
I have an amazing husband, Daniel. I call him my precious, and he's the best husband. And we have been together for 16 years. We just had our 16-year anniversary. And I have 2 little girls, Grace and Audrey, that are 10 and 7. So it's crazy to think Audrey was 3.5 months old whenever I got started and I met you, which is nuts, isn't it?
It is, because I think about my own children. My daughter was 7, my son was 10 when I started in the industry, and now they're in their 30s, and my daughter's raising her own kids in the industry. So I feel like it definitely has been a blessing for our family and now for generations to come. But back when you first began, you were in a totally different business, a totally different environment, actually brick and mortar. Talk a little bit about what you were doing before you found the industry.
Sure. Well, I've always had that entrepreneurial mindset. I have always been interested in business, in making money, how to make money, how to make more money. And, you kind of, some of us are just have that type of mindset. And so mine started actually when I was very young. I started several small businesses when I was younger. And then when I was 22, I remember I went to Dan and I said, I have this idea for this type of store and nobody else is doing it. And somebody should do it. And he said, well, why don't you do it? I said, well, because I've never done retail. At that point, I was still waiting tables at the Olive Garden. So, I said, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue. I don't know the difference between wholesale and retail or anything. And he said, well, figure it out. That's what the internet's for. And I went home that day and I just immersed myself in trying to figure out what it would take to start this business. And I researched and I figured out if there was anyone else doing what I had this idea for. And I just went for it. I'm someone that tries to, I make a decision and then I figure out the details along the way. And so I jumped in and I started that store when I was 22. I was still in college. And I remember my last semester of college, I took 24 hours and was still working 40 hours a week at my boutique. It's crazy to think back on that time, but yeah, I had a store for 8 years.
And we've talked in the past about what it took to keep that business open. Mm-hmm. And so monthly, what were you paying out just to keep the doors open?
That's the crazy thing is people think that we were living the American dream, and they think that owning your own business and your own brick and mortar store is just this incredibly, you must be successful if you're doing that. But the truth is, I was barely bringing home enough to cover our mortgage. And when I sold that business in 2012, it cost $10,000 a month just to keep the lights on, that wasn't anything extra. That wasn't even paying myself. That was just to pay employees, to pay rent, to keep just to keep the lights on and to keep it going. And, so when people talk to me about opening up a business and opening up a store, I'm always very, very honest with them to help them see the other side that most people don't see. People would only see the cool sign out front and that I was in a great shopping center right next to Starbucks and, oh, you must be so successful. And Pam, they didn't see there were nights, I mean this, there were nights I slept on the couch in my office. There were nights that I cried behind the counter wondering, am I even going to be able to pay my rent, much less all the other bills I had that were on a credit card. And so it wasn't this amazing success that people thought it was. It was beginning to get there. I was just after 8 years, I feel like kind of getting into the swing of things, and really starting to even take home enough to cover our mortgage. And every once in a while on a really good month, I could bring home enough to cover our home insurance. And that was like, I may as well have won the lottery. And so that's really, where I was at and the mindset that I was in whenever I heard about network marketing.
Most people are living like that. I try to buy as local as I can, and I can go in, I can see the stress on the faces, and hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory, and just praying that, somebody will walk in and buy something. And when you think about that stress and day in and day out, now you're fast forwarding 8 years and the success you've had here, would you still be there, you think, or would you have sold it? What do you think might have happened?
That's hard to say. You don't know what you don't know. And I think I might still be there. I think I'd probably still be there. Hopefully at that point, maybe making $3,000 or $4,000 a month if I were lucky, really. But I definitely would not have wanted to be working the hours that I was. I remember Audrey, I had her at the end of May, and 2 weeks later in June, I was up at the store working because every hour that I was there, I didn't have to pay someone else to be there. I remember thinking how crazy life was and how stressed out I was. She was strapped to my chest in one of those, those newborn wrap things. She was strapped to my chest, and I was lacing up a lady's corset and just thinking, how is this my life? Like, I sure do wish I could just be home right now in my pajamas with my newborn. And instead, that's what I was doing because I didn't know any different. And I just knew I was trying to build a business. So I don't know. It's hard to say if I'd still be there. Knowing my personality, probably. I'm not a quitter, but I'm probably still be there.
All right. So how come network marketing? What was happening? Who called you, or did you reach out to somebody? How did you find the business?
Well, I love, everybody's got their story of how they started. And I love my story because you think about how interesting life weaves and works, and the different paths that we take, and the things we say yes to and the things we say no to. And one simple thing that happened was I sat next to a girl for half of a semester in an English class in junior high. And I never went back to that school. I only went to that school for 5 months, but I met her when I was 13. And those 5 months, that many years ago, completely changed my life because I sat next to the girl that however long later that one, 17 years later, sent me a message on Facebook and said, this is what I found. I found this patch, and it's cold and it was wet, and they threw it on my stomach, and I got great results in 45 minutes, and you should sell it too. And she told me about these ladies up north that were making $10,000 a month. And, it all just sounded too good to be true. And I always joke with her that I think her message was only a few paragraphs shorter than Moby Dick. I mean, it was the longest message that you've ever read, Pam. But I could hear her excitement. I could tell that she was excited. I could tell that she was new to it, but that she saw something in the company and in the product. But for me, I got to the end of the message and I deleted it because I thought, there's no way a product like that really works. I tried everything, I'm a normal vain woman that wants to look good and be as thin as possible. Right. So but still be able to eat pizza and guacamole. And I thought there's no way a product like that works. And, she's gotten herself into one of those pyramid things. She's going to get scammed out of money, poor thing. And the main thing was there was just no time at that point. Again, with working what I did, I wasn't making enough at the store. And so I was picking up gigs on the weekend with a classic rock band. I was singing in a classic rock band. I also owned the bridal show in town, and I was the president of the Bridal Service Association. And again, having I had two kids under 2.5 years old. And so there was just no time. But 2 weeks later, this random conversation with my in-laws happened, and it wasn't random at all looking back. And I remember asking my mother-in-law, she used to watch QVC all the time on Friday nights. And I remember asking her, hey, have you ever heard of this product? I don't even know what it's called, but it's this cold, wet patch, and you put it on your stomach or wherever you want, and you get smaller. And have you ever heard of it? And she said, oh, no, but I want one. And I thought, wow. It was the way she said it. And I thought, oh, I do too. I want to try it too. And so that was on a Sunday. I called Tiffany on a Tuesday. And the very first thing I said was, I don't want to be in your crazy scheme business. I will not be a rep, but I want some. My mother-in-law wants some, and I bet I have a few friends that want some. And so, what can you give me for free? Well, that transpired 45 minutes later. Isn't that funny? It just took me 45 minutes, and she had my social security number, my credit card, and my entire life changed that day.
I think back about everyone's story is so different, and it really doesn't matter the message that we send or the ask that we ask, does it?
It doesn't.
If you're passionate, you felt her passion, and that really is what it comes down to. Well, here we are. Years later, you've become a top money earner. You've sat on what we call the white couch, and that's at our conference. We've had 18,000 people there. You're a big voice for the company. Everybody loves your humor, your ability to build. There's so much respect there. When you think about what's transpired in the last 8 years, do you pinch yourself? Plus, not to mention the income that you have coming in, much more than the 3,000 or 4,000 that you could potentially have made with your brick and mortar business. I mean, we got to add zeros to that.
No, zeros and zeros.
Yeah.
Pam, it's not lost on me. And I am so incredibly grateful because life looks so different today than it did. I have to pinch myself all the time. This is never what I thought I would do. And, I remember the moment that it took hold. And I think for everybody, there's a moment that it takes hold. And that idea of maybe I could make a few $100s, or maybe I could make a little bit, that idea and that seed, it's planted in everyone, whether we choose to ignore it, walk away from it, let our own negative thoughts get in the way. That's all up to us. But that seed, I think, is planted in everyone that begins a business like this. And that seed was planted for me from you, actually, years ago. I sat down and I decided to start watching my training videos, which is so not my style. So it's funny that I even opened up the computer to start the training videos. But I started the training videos, and you came on and started talking about Wrap Cash. You started with Wrap Cash. You were talking about having parties and how simple this was. And and then you began talking about exponential growth and compound growth. And now looking back, you were probably talking about coding or something like that. But it was this idea that in this industry, you can compound your efforts, and that you work, and sound like Rihanna, work. You kind of work. Yeah.
Work.
We're both bouncing a little bit, but where you just kind of, you work and you work and you work and it feels like nothing is happening. And then all of a sudden that work gets compounded. And I remember you talking about that. And I was nursing Audrey. Grace was in front of the TV watching Sesame Street. Dan was doing, I don't know what, but I was watching these videos, and I remember looking at Dan and I said, I am going to make us $1 million. And he said, that's cool. Can you just make us lunch? And it was that moment of just knowing that I had my hands on something special. And so I do pinch myself, and I do go back to that day on Sunday afternoon, watching those videos and having that seed planted, and it started growing inside of me that day. That was the day that I made up my mind that I was going to be just like those girls up north that were making, that this Southern girl was going to make $10,000 a month. I knew it. I didn't know how long it was going to take me, but I believe that what one woman can do, another can do. And I knew no matter how long it took me that I was going to open a $10,000 paycheck. And so I just got to work. That's where it started for me.
And you have had the fastest run. When I look back, we have a position that everyone aspires to, which is Ambassador Diamond, and you did that in record time. Nobody's beat that record, actually. And so congratulations on that. When you think about setting those goals and aspiring to those, this also involves a team. Mm-hmm. And so you've had people within your organization that have joined that show every bit of promise. However, they don't catch that vision. They start, they stop, they start, they stop, or they never get started. What are some of the things that you've learned to move those people through so that maybe they can catch that vision?
Well, Pam, I think so much of it, we talk a lot in this industry about your why, about why you work, what makes you get up and go, what makes you, what I've had to dive into, what makes me, why do I want the amount of money that I want each month? Why do I want these things that are on my dream board? And so, so much of it goes back to why we do what we do. So for me, it's really trying to dig deeper. And you've taught me this, how to keep asking that question until you hit that nerve, that emotional nerve, I guess that proverbial nerve that is, okay, this is really why. It's to prove all the naysayers wrong that said I couldn't do it my whole life, or it's because I was raised by a mom who was there with me every day, and I don't want to drop my kid off at daycare. Whatever that why, that thing is inside of us, I try to reach that with people and find why they really want to start, because everybody's got a reason that they start. Everybody has a reason that they hit submit and decide to join this kind of industry. So finding out what that is, I think, is key. And then the other thing is just, again, something else you've taught me is just helping people get over that fear, mm-hmm. And some people will follow you and listen to you, and some people won't. They'll let the fear be louder. They'll let the fear be louder than that why. I'm wearing a shirt right now that says faith over fear. And it's such a reminder to me that I always want my dreams, my goals, what I feel like God has for me to be bigger than the fear that would keep me from doing them. And I feel like that's one of the biggest deterrents, don't you? I mean,
absolutely. They get in their own head. And another thing too, when I think about it, when the passion is within you, when that, let's say that the site is of my dream right now, the only thing that I can possibly see is that first step of making $500. And to me, that is a first step. Most people join our industry to make $500 extra a month, working very spare time. And that's awesome, because that is the start of something. Mm-hmm. And so what could you say to that person that is just living in that state of fear, like I was when I first joined the industry? I didn't do anything for 6 months until I heard the passion of someone else. So I want them to hear the passion of Ashley and what that means to start. So what could you say to them? Like, just get up, get going. That's not enough.
Right.
And it is finding that why, but beyond even that, what are some of the things that you've done?
Well, I think so much of it, again, it goes back to not having to know everything. When I started, Pam, I had no clue what I was doing. I had never been in network marketing. And so, that the whole concept was foreign to me of building a team. As a matter of fact, I had to fight and learn later how to be part of a team, because I was always kind of out for myself a little bit, right? I got to take care of me and my employees. And, so it was a different kind of concept for me, but the thing that I feel like holds so many people back, and if you're listening today, what I would tell you is stop letting fear control you. Stop letting what could go wrong keep you from what could go right. And, for me that day, it was so scary, but I remember that Sunday afternoon, watching that video, and I said, I'm going to make us $1 million. I don't know how. That seems like a foreign concept to me. I can't imagine being a millionaire, much less a millionaire in a company like this that I'd never been a part of. But I got on the phone and I sent out about 15 text messages to people that I know. And I said, to quote, I'm about to make $1 million. Are you coming with me or not? There was zero doubt. There was zero, again, didn't know how. It wasn't the steps. I didn't have all the steps out in front of me, but I knew that was going to be the end goal. And I knew that I had to take a first step, and then the first step would lead to a second, and the second would lead to a third. And don't you feel like the fear of starting is what keeps people, that's what stops people there. It's just that initial fear. And we even talked about, at our retreat a couple of days ago, when we had lunch, we were talking about how, even in a few areas of my life, I've let some things that I don't know what the next step is. And so it's keeping me from taking a step at all. That concept of, if you think about getting really close to your goal, for example, you're really close to hitting maybe a goal weight that you have. When you're 5 pounds away from that, you're going to eat a salad. When you're 55 pounds away from that, you're like, bring on the cheeseburgers and the pizza. It feels so far away. I can't even fathom getting to my goal. And so I just knew that I had to take that step. And that would be the encouragement that I give people is, do not let the fear of what the next step is keep you from taking a step at all, because that blind confidence of your goal will get you so much further, because that's truly what it was, Pam. I had no clue what I was doing. It's not like I called you up and said, what's my next step? Right. I mean, I just said, I know, okay, if the step is that I have to have people on a team, who do I want on my team? Who's going to be my A team? If I've got a varsity and a JV, who's my varsity team? Let's go. And I called those people. Some said yes, some said no, some are still with me, some left me a long time ago, some said no for 5 years and then joined me and now are with me. I could never have predicted all of that and what God had in store for me, but I knew I had to take a step. And so that's what I would encourage people to do, and keep those. You think about the fact that Dan even said, well, that's great. Can you just make us lunch? Here I am up here in the clouds and have this amazing, vision and dream. And even my own husband, God love him, he didn't get it. He was still in reality. And so I kind of had to even put aside reality a little bit at times and go, I know what I'm doing is insane, but I don't care. I'm going to figure this out because other people have done it, so I can do it too.
I love this. We don't know the how. When you think about, well, I want to go to the gym and start working out. Now you might have an idea, all right, I need to get on the treadmill, or I'm going to take this class, and you just show up. A lot of it is just show up and see what direction you're led in. And that's what I did. I showed up in the industry. I just started. And sometimes I talk too much. Sometimes I asked all the wrong questions. Sometimes I didn't even care about finding out why they were sitting there with me. But how did I find out that wasn't the way to go? Is actually doing it, seeing their eyes roll up in their head, asking them questions, and figuring out, oh, well, that's not the right way to ask, or that's not the right thing to do. So it's taking the steps, but also not also looking at yourself in that situation and saying, what could I have done better? What could I have done different? That's how we learn. I always say we ruin the first child we have because we're overly cautious. We're not letting them explore. We're too worried about the food. And the second one comes along, eats everything. We're like letting them eat dirt, explore the floor, the dog's all over them. So I call them the cursed hows. The cursed house. How do I do it? How do I do it? Ashley, have you noticed this? When people are in the cursed house and all they're asking is how, they're not passionate.
You're right. It's because passion and having that excitement will always trump the how, always.
Mm-hmm.
And that passion and that excitement, I didn't know how I was going to get people on my team, but I knew I was passionate, and I knew that if I was going to make $1 million, that I had to ask some other people. And I knew that if I was going to do well in this industry and do well in this company, that I had to ask people. I didn't know how to ask. I mean, is that a text I would send today? Maybe not. Maybe it's still a little bit like me, but maybe I would. Maybe I wouldn't.
I think I would send it.
Yeah.
Because it's going to speak to the right people.
You're right.
And
You're
here's
right.
another thing: we're trying to make a generic text, a generic message that speaks to everyone. When Ashley, don't you want people on your team that want to make $1 million?
I do.
Yeah.
And I would rather sign one person a month that really wants to get after it and better their life than I would 20 people that I don't hear from a week later,
Yeah.
and
So
go through all of that work.
I think it's a good question.
Mm-hmm. It is. It really is a good question. And there's times that I ask that, and there's times that someone will sign up with me and I'll just flat out say, look, I can show you how to make $500 a month, or I can show you how to make 5,000. I can even show you how to make 50,000. What number's best for you? And a lot of them will say, look, I just want 500. And then I kind of know who I'm working with and how to coach a little bit better. If I've got that person that says, let's do it. Hey, if you made 50,000, I can make 50,000. I'm like, let's go. And I put them on a completely different path because they're ready. That passion and that excitement that they've got, I know is going to fuel them past all of the, as you said, the cursed hows.
You've done so many things right. I mean, you build a strong team. You host great meetings. You're getting ready to go on another leadership retreat that you're taking your team on. You've been through a lot of personal development, a lot of training on your own to develop your skills, and yet there are people that you bring on board that just don't do it. How do you allow that to move through you without getting caught up in that negativity?
Well, I think so much of it is realizing it's not that I never get my feelings hurt, because I do all the time, but I allow myself to have a quick little pity party and be sad because I put work into that. That was my time. When someone signs up with me, I've given them my time. I've taken time away from my family, what's important to me, to invest in them, no matter how long or short of a time that took. And so I allow myself just a moment to grieve that time, and then to grieve what I know could have been for that person. And then it's time to move on. Because if I'm so focused on that person in front of me that said, this isn't for me, or I can't get past the negativity, or I can't do this, or whatever it might be, I am missing the line of people that are waiting, that want this, that need this. And so it's all your perspective. And so that's something I've had to learn though, Pam. My very first meeting, the girl that I thought was going to help me make $1 million. I set up that meeting on Sunday afternoon. We set it up for Monday morning at 9:00, and I had another meeting at 10:00. And the girl at 9:00 told me no. And when she told me no, I'm telling you, if I would not have had that 10:00 meeting, I don't know that I'd still be here. It devastated me. I felt so rejected. But luckily, the next person walked in and within 5 minutes said, so what do you need my social security number, or what do you need?
Oh, wow.
And she went on to be the presidential that got me to ambassador in 5 months. And
Wow.
So I look at that and go, I was almost taken out by the girl that said no, and would have missed a complete change of my entire life and my entire legacy for my children had I walked out of that coffee shop and said, well, this isn't for me. So I would just encourage people to focus. That's what I've had to do, is just focus on the ones that do want it. Because the deal is, Pam, and I was just talking about this with someone, it's that way in everything. Think about the people that are up at your school, your kids' school, the people that you go to church with. 20% of the people are always going to do 80% of the work. And so if you're focused on the 80% that don't want to do it, you're missing the 20 that are ready to get to work. And so that's how I've tried to look at my team and at my business. That 20% is who is going to get the majority of my time, effort, and energy. And when I'm thinking of bringing new people in, those that want it versus those that don't, I'm focused on that 20% that I know is going to take me to the next level. So that's, but again, like you said, that's years of self-development and growth and learning. Because I almost laid down. I almost laid down and quit that first day. Thank goodness I didn't.
Well, and then you get to a point too where, and we've had multiple conversations on this, we talk about, well, we just don't need another pair of shoes, of course, unless they're Valentinos.
Of course.
And another handbag, another item, another stuff. And you really do feel so blessed because there is money coming in. It's every single month and it's more than you ever thought possible. How do you keep yourself going? How do you reset? Here we are coming up on the new year. We always talk about vision boards and things that we can do to put out there of things that we want to accomplish. And we just had a great discussion this past weekend and there was a major breakthrough for you. So I'd love for you to share that.
There was, Pam. And one quote that I wrote down is, good is the enemy of great. And I know you've heard that quote before. I think it was said this weekend. It's a John Maxwell quote, and I hope I don't butcher it, but something to the effect of small success will keep you from the great success. What I've achieved at this level to some people might be great success, but if I view that as the ultimate, which it's not, then I'm never going to push for that next level. And so what I've had to realize is that the things on my vision board, and I think this is where I've been stuck the last few years, the things on my vision board, I'm using air quotes and realizing I'm on a podcast. Okay, so air quote here, the things on my vision board that I'm beginning to make now after this weekend are who I want to be as a person. They aren't things at all. They are attributes. They are, and God started this a couple of months ago on our way to a marriage retreat. We had the best talk. It was a 7-hour drive and we had the best talk. And I felt like God was telling me, we were listening to a podcast on parenthood and what to do with a strong-willed child. I won't name which one of my children is strong-willed, but we're listening to this podcast to try to be a better parent. And I remember being so overwhelmed and thinking, how do I give her everything she needs? How can I be the best mom for her? And I felt like God was just saying the word simplify and 3 things. Focus on 3 things, Ashley. What 3 things do you want to be remembered for as a parent? All the rest of it, let it go. I'm not a Pinterest mom. I'm not a get down in the floor and play with my kids kind of mom the way I want to be. I'm not I just, we all have our ideas of what the perfect mom is, the perfect wife, the perfect business owner. And I thought, man, I'm just failing in all these areas. And there was this guilt. And so I felt like God kept saying, if you will focus on 3 things in this season of life, in these aspects that you've got going on in your life, with your business, with your marriage, with your kids, with your relationships, what do you want to be known for and remembered for? And I started writing those down and really praying about and thinking about those, Pam. And that's what I've been focused on. And I cannot tell you the guilt that has left me, that it feels like it's just brushed right off of me, because I asked Dan, what do you want from me as a wife? What makes you feel like you've got an amazing wife? He said these 3 things, and I asked him about these other 20 things that I've had on the list that I feel like make a good wife. And he said, oh, I don't care about any of that. And I thought, wow, here I am running my life on all these things that really don't even matter to him. And I thought, so I just have tried to really simplify and bring it back down to what 3 things do I want to be focused on so that I can reach maximum success in these areas that are important to me. And, really it's about becoming a better person. Becoming a higher version of myself is what's going to lead me to greater success. And so, it's been fun making that dream board. It's been fun making a vision board that doesn't really have a lot of stuff on it. Granted, I still have a few material things. But for the most part, everything is just who I really want to be, experiences that I want to have, people that I want to meet, ways that I want to kind of level up and get to that next level. And gosh, it has gotten me so renewed and fired up because I finally feel like I have this path and this goal. And I'm not saying, oh, I want another, like we joke, I want another handbag. I want another pair of Valentinos or whatever it is. It's bigger. It's stuff that's going to truly leave that legacy of, and make an impact for people that hopefully last way beyond however long God has me on this earth. So that's what I'm excited about right now.
Wow. I love this because one of the things after our conversation, I started thinking for myself, because it is, we do create vision boards here. And mine is from straight out of the Bible, ask for wisdom. Mm-hmm. And so that's a big one for me, is just ask for more wisdom in all areas of my life. And I think about learning from each other, just like we have through this. And, Ashley, it's been fun getting to know you. We've had some fun times. And I want everyone to know that this business is fun. It's about freedom. It's about friendships. But most importantly, when I turned 40, I said I wasn't going to do anything anymore that wasn't fun. Now, is it fun all the time? I would say yes, because in that, what looks like not fun, out comes the fun. Out on the other side of that, we experience that fun. What would you like to leave everybody lastly here on this podcast?
I feel like right now the main lesson that I'm learning is that your life, it's taking place in different seasons. And there's so many women that I talk to that are in a certain season of life and they don't know how to give themselves grace. And what I'm realizing and what God's showing me, so this is something I'm experiencing now, it is not something that I have mastered by any means, is that we have to learn to give ourselves grace in all these different seasons that we're in. If you're in a season where you've got twin newborns, you're in a very different place than I am with a 10 and a 7-year-old who are entertaining themselves upstairs in the craft room right now, right? Very different season. And so as women, we want to do it all. And we want to be all things to all people, and we can't. And so I would just encourage you to give yourself grace, because if we can't figure out how to give ourselves grace, then we can't extend that to other people. And I learned that, kind of like how if you don't love yourself, you can't really love other people, right? So this year's been a really, really neat journey. It didn't go the way that I expected at all, but isn't that the fun of it, right?
Right.
The fun of it was the lessons God taught me this year that I feel I can already see now. And I saw it this past weekend when we were together, that He was using the lessons that I learned this year to set me up for something incredible next year. And it just makes me sad to think that I could have missed an amazing 2019 because I was letting things in 2018 hold me back. And so, man, take that step, give yourself grace, realize that we're all in different seasons. And it's about the journey and about the growth. And so I don't just mean to sound like a cheesy self-help book. I don't, but man, I'm just in this space of just wanting to transfer as much of that to other people as I can right now. Be willing to grow. Don't you think? I mean, when we stop growing, that's whenever the success won't happen. So just be willing to grow through all of this and look at it long term. Man, it's such a marathon. And this is just a small, whatever season you're in right now, give yourself grace during that season.
Well, John Maxwell always asks everyone in his classes, who do you know that I should know? And I would say that would be Ashley Sinclair. So, Ashley, thank you. Wow.
You're the best. You're the best, Pam.
This has been so great. I know our listeners have gotten so much more out of this than we probably even know. And so I'm looking forward to the feedback. And for those that are listening, please go to pamsouter.com, and right there you can ask Pam. You can ask me anything. We'll get back to you and give you the answers that you'll need to help you propel to the next level of your business. So Ashley, hey, Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Can you believe it? Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. I love it. I'm so excited. I can't believe it's the end of the year. It's been a great year. Can't wait for 2019. I appreciate you and love you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Pam Souter Podcast. Be sure to check out my website at pamsouter.com. There you can get inspired, listen to more podcasts, Read and submit Ask Pam questions that could be featured on an upcoming podcast episode. Be sure to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And as always, much love and appreciation.